December 22nd meeting of the Municipal Airport Authority to order. And let's see, I see we have Eric, we have Rick. Is John Kostrup on yet? Oh, is that you, John? Okay.
Yes, I am.
Sounds good, now I see ya.
And Mike. Okay.
And Mike Haugen, I heard you.
Yes, I'm on.
Sounds good. Number one, approve the minutes of the regular meeting of Municipal Airport Authority held December 8th, 2020. It is, and welcome, John. Is there a motion to approve the minutes? By Rick, moved by Rick. Is there a second to the motion?
Second.
Okay, Mike, seconded the motion. All in favor of the approval of the minutes December 8th, 2020, signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Sounds good. Number two, approve the airport vouchers totaling $63,986.78.
Motion.
Motion to approve? Second?
I will second it.
Okay, thank you, Eric. It's been moved and seconded. Do we approve the airport vouchers? Roll call vote.
Haugen.
Aye.
Engen.
Aye.
Cosgrove.
Aye.
Lind.
Aye.
Lynn.
Aye. It's really lonely in here, you guys. All right, number three. Let's see, there was one change, and that was a Sixel LLC for $2,836. Prove that
It's the lower amount then.
it's the lower,
$17.90.
oh, it's 17, sorry, I'm wrong. It was the lower amount, the vouchers was Sixel at $1,794, so it was lowered. Is there a motion to approve the individual vouchers as follows? Sixel at $1,794, TL Stroh's $8,955.50, TL Stroh Architects again $2,746.25, and Mead and Hunt $39,694.07.
Madam Chair, motion to approve A through D, item 3.
Thank you, Mike.
Seconded by
Or
Eric.
Rick, and seconded, so that was Rick and Eric. Let's see, roll call vote.
Haugen.
Haugen?
Aye.
Engen.
Aye.
Cosgrove.
Aye.
Lind.
Aye.
Lynn.
Aye. Okay, number four, receive communication from North Star Aviation Insurance regarding year 2021 airport liability policy renewal.
Okay, we got a communication from Mark LePage, North Star Aviation Insurance, which is our broker and has been for a number of years, informing us that the annual premium will increase by $6,808 to a total of $64,570 for calendar year 2021. It's a $100 million policy, really no changes in what we've done in years past. And as Mark explains, the increase in premium is due to the very hard market that the aviation industry basically entered during the last years. So I would recommend your approval of the renewal of our liability insurance policy with North Star Aviation Insurance, which is carried by AIG Aerospace.
Motion.
Okay, motion, thank you, Rick. Is there a second?
Second.
Was that you, Mike? Okay,
Mike.
sounds good. Do
Just
we
to,
roll call? Or-
don't have to.
Okay, all in favor of the motion to renew the airport liability policy with the current carrier, AIG Aerospace, signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye. Aye. Aye.
Thank you. Okay. Let's see, receive update regarding Mathern proposed purchase of airport authority parcel.
Stacy, do you want to take that?
Sure.
So as you all know, Sean and I went out and obtained an appraisal on this 3.2 acre parcel of property that sits adjacent to the Mountains property. And I think the entire board felt it came in very high. There's not really any other use to any other person for this piece of property. So I did bring that to Patsy and said, come back with an offer, counteroffer. They came back at $5,000. And basically we just kept the conversation going. We reduced down to 15. They came up some. Their final offer to purchase the property, which they communicated to me, I believe last Friday, was $6,500. I have been, communicating with John Cosgrove and Rick regarding this, and basically it's here today for a vote by the authority.
So she,
Madam Chair, I would move that we accept their $6,500 offer for the parcel.
okay, it's moved by Rick. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, is there any discussion on this motion?
So just to let you know, I did speak with Dave Anderson yesterday, who's the assistant manager for the FAA Airports District Office in Bismarck, Minneapolis, Bismarck, but he's in the Bismarck office. And there's some new guidance that came out from the Federal Aviation Administration on October 27th regarding airport layout plan reviews and projects that might be affected by what's called a Section 163 of the FAA Reauthorization Act of 2018. And as you're aware, this property was gifted to the Airport Authority by Jack Stockman some years ago. And Dave confirmed that the FAA does not have any approval requirement for the sale of this property. It does not appear that the property is on the airport layout plan, but nonetheless, we will still send notice for his file that we did sell this parcel, just so we have something in his file, even though that there's no approval requirement from the FAA because no federal funds were used, and it's not on our airport layout plan.
Thank you. Any questions or further discussion?
So I would just put in there, I'll prepare that letter with Sean's approval and get that sent. And then I'm already working on the real estate side of it with a purchase agreement. I just need to look under North law if there's anything special required when a public body, beyond the newspaper publication we did, if there's anything different than private to private, sale to buyer, and then get the corresponding warranty deed done, and those documents, I guess, in front of the board for approval at the next meeting.
Okay,
And Stacy, I think you said we could use the title opinion that Gary Stewart prepared when the property was transferred to us, correct?
Correct.
okay,
Yeah, Gary did that in conjunction with Jack Stockman looking to donate. Obviously, nothing's happened with the property between his donation and now. So I'm totally comfortable, and Mountains are totally comfortable relying on Gary's title opinion from way back when.
okay.
You don't want to update it? If you don't want to update it?
If that's the board's desire, we sure can.
Well, no, from the buyer side, I certainly would, but if they're comfortable.
Okay,
Hey, this is Eric, and I would say if the buyer is worried about title problems, then they can pay for a title search and clearance if they would like to, but I don't think that that's our problem at this point.
okay. Any further discussion?
We'll do a roll call.
Hearing none, we'll do a roll call vote and regarding the proposed purchase of the Airport Authority parcel for $6,500. Roll call vote.
Haugen,
Aye.
Engen,
Aye.
Cosgrove,
Aye.
Lind, Lynn.
Aye. Okay, 6, received communication from First International Bank and Trust regarding airport funds on deposit. And I believe
Jeff Baumgartner.
Jeff Baumgartner, you are on the call. Welcome.
Good morning, welcome. Can everyone hear me okay?
Yes.
Yes.
Great. Madam Chair, board members, Executive Director Doverstein, and commission staff, appreciate the opportunity to meet with you this morning. My name is Jeff Baumgartner. I'm a Senior Portfolio Manager for First International Bank and Trust Private Wealth Management Team. Steve, unfortunately, is not able to be here this morning due to being on vacation, but I have had an opportunity to connect with Sean in the past, and really the focus of our dialogue today is going to be on the broader interest rate environment as it relates to investments per the North Dakota Century Code. And met with Executive Director Doverstein yesterday briefly to walk through the presentation, and his feedback was the board may find this dialogue useful to continue in your progress with managing the funds and operations of the airport. So that being said, I have a presentation here. I will share my screen. 1 second to complete that.
Good.
Everyone see my screen okay?
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you. So to begin, we'll look at 2 sections of the North Dakota Century Code that we reviewed and used as guidance for kind of informing this look, specifically dubbed as Tier 1, which are core deposits, 2104, deposits of public funds, effectively full faith and credit of the government, and that is your core deposits. The other section that does apply and is where we spent our time in response to the question of what are options out there and what are some of the considerations for the board, what I've dubbed as Tier 2 investments. That's 210607. Political subdivisions may invest. You'll see in this language it refers to a number of governmental and municipality related entities, and they may invest general funds, obligations, temporary funds in Section A, bonds, treasury bills, and those that are direct obligations or insured by the guarantee of the Treasury of the United States or its agencies. So that's going to be things like treasury bills, treasury notes, agency-backed notes from Fannie, Freddie, Federal Farm, those types of items. Section B refers to repurchase agreements. Section C then refers to certificates of deposit that are fully insured by the FDIC or by the state. Bit of an overlap there with Tier 1, but just an example where that is also permissible. Another reference of CDs, saving deposits, or other guaranteed by the FDIC. And then Section E is one where we'll spend a little bit of time in the remainder of this presentation as well, and that references state and local securities, so state and local fixed income bond issuances. E sub 1 refers to general obligations of the state and local government with taxing authority, specifically rated within the highest 3 categories of a nationally recognized rating agency, an obligation of the State Housing Finance Agency, number 3, a security of a general obligation of a school district, again, both of those 2 being 2 highest categories, and then obligations of this state and general obligations of its political subdivisions. Lastly, with Section F, you'll see a reference to commercial paper, and this has to be rated in the highest quality, at least by 2 nationally recognized rating agencies, and a maximum maturity of 270 days or less. So as we were preparing for this conversation and an update to the board, this was the guidance that was leveraged in determining what were permissible investments. And so the remainder of this presentation is intended to give a current snapshot into their interest rate environment. Many of you may already be aware that we're at ultra low rates and from a historical perspective. But before I move on, are there any questions as it relates to Tier 1 or Tier 2 in reference to the Century Code? As we look at the options, I'll start on the left-hand side of the screen. Bring to the attention of the board that the chart on the left reflects the Treasury yield curve. What that means is it's a range of yields for Treasuries from the left-hand side of 1 month all the way out to the 30-year. The top line you see is referencing December 2018. The middle line you see is referencing December 2019. And the blue line references the current year, 2020. I'll draw your attention to the 2-year. 2 years ago, 2-year Treasury was yielding about 2.5%. A year ago, a little over 1.5. And when I pulled this data last week in preparation for this meeting, it was at 11 basis points. So just an example to show how dramatic yields have fallen in a relatively short period of time. This is again a direct action from the Federal Reserve in response to the COVID-19 pandemic. As a way to kind of present information to the board, we created kind of a hypothetical portfolio as a matter of dialogue. And this table looks to take the 3 categories of municipal bonds, agencies, and treasuries with a max weight of 50%, minimum credit rating at AA or better for the municipal bonds, A or better for the government general obligation bonds, and looking to see what kind of yields could be achieved from this type of portfolio in the aggregate. So this doesn't take into effect a specific maturity time period, but the aggregate market. And you'll see that the yield to maturity and yield to worst on this type of a mix would be roughly 52 or 47 basis points. And that is a gross number, not necessarily accounting for the cost that would come with kind of servicing and managing these assets as a result. As we go down a little deeper, we then look to specific time maturity. So a 2, a 3, and a 4 year and replicated that specific analysis. These are the averages by nature of average. There are some that are lower, some that are higher. But you can see in front of you the 2-year having a composite yield of roughly 7 basis points, the 3-year composite 10 basis points, and the 4-year a composite 20 basis points. So much like the chart on the prior slide, short-term maturity of these types of issuances have relatively limited amount of yield at this point in time, but something that we'll definitely keep an eye on. And if there's updates, we'll be looking to kind of be in conversation and make the team and board aware of these changes. Lastly, as a reference to commercial paper, roughly 37 basis points was the yield given a recent look at that offering. For the final slide, we did a bit of a hypothetical as well to kind of screen for bonds that might be yielding a little more. We did a screen for yield to worst of greater than 65 basis points. Again, this does not include any fees for the cost of management or purchasing. And so starting at a general universe of roughly 46,000 bonds across all maturities, rating sectors, you can see the column on the right that the number of bonds that were even just initially screened to be investable is a relatively limited number. And so, one of the considerations for the board and the update today is an understanding of kind of where we see the risks, where we see the reward, the return from the fixed income environment this time, and an appreciation for the differences in these investment offerings. Certainly things like credit risk and the market risk that come into play with fixed income investing relative to those things that might be FDIC insured at this time. Happy to go into more detail on these items or provide further updates, but wanted to give an opportunity to share a little bit about the current interest rate environment in support of the meeting dialogue today.
Thank you. Any questions, comments?
I have a question. Do you, to the fees right now for managing the fund exceed the interest that we get? Does it cost us more to have this going than we're making in interest?
Thank you for the question. So as it currently stands, the dollars in the on deposit are an insured cash sweep account, meaning fully FDIC insured. That is on kind of the bank side of the entity. I sit on more of our wealth management side. It's my understanding that you do not pay fees for that. That fee that comes with that product offering is actually covered by the bank. So the yield you see on the statements is the rate you're receiving on the deposited dollars. This dialogue came up as a question of, yields are low. There continues to be pressure on the rates from the bank side, just given the overall environment. What are the options that are available to the commission, but still meeting the options within the North Dakota Century Code? And I think the takeaway is the reason why the savings rates are so low is very similar to the drivers of what's what's reducing the yields in the broad fixed income market as well. Does that answer your question?
Yes, it does, thank you.
Our current rate is 0.45% right now. Of course, we started at over 2%, and the interest rates, as you're aware, have steadily declined since that time that we first put the funds on deposit at First International Bank and Trust. I think the consensus is that the rate that we're getting right now in the interest-bearing account is probably the best option for the funds. And thanks to Jeff and his team down there and Steve Blazik, on a quarterly basis, we'll continue to monitor this to see if there is a better interest-bearing account that's allowed by the Century Code. We'll just keep monitoring, but as it looks right now, what we're doing seems to be the best option for us.
I agree. I think that, thank you so much for this great information. It really does, we are in a good position with First International and that relationship because, again, one of the things that we aren't paying are fees for our deposits right now. And other questions or comments?
Madam Chair, this is Mike.
Yes.
One comment and then a question. The comment is I have been researching through some other banks the possibilities of higher interest for my personal accounts, and I am of the opinion we're doing as good as we can with the guidance that we have from our investment guidance from the state statute. What I'm wondering is, do you see any need, especially with the new legislative session coming up, a push to modify state statute in any way to give us a little more flexibility? That's just an open question for anyone.
That's an interesting question. What, I don't know. Maybe have any of the other airports mentioned anything or?
They haven't. I could reach out to probably Jim Larson at West Fargo and maybe some folks with the city of Bismarck that help manage the airport there and to see if there's any interest. But I'm guessing the conservative nature of our part of the country is they probably want to leave well enough alone. But we'll see, Mike. I'm not sure, but I can reach out and see if there's anything in the works.
There may be some interest from the counties and other cities, park districts, everybody who's affected by this. I don't know. I agree, we're pretty conservative and we don't want to lose any money here, but we are pretty well tied into or limited what we can do.
Mm-hmm.
John Cosgriff, if you're on, I know some time back we had talked about where the Fargo Dome funds are invested with. Is it a state investment committee? I forget the exact name of it, but North Dakota has a state committee, and at this point we aren't, I guess, eligible for that. The Fargo Dome is because of how the city of Fargo changed their investment policy through Home Rule Charter, but I don't know if you know anything more about that or if there's a possibility airports could be included in that portfolio.
Well, as a political subdivision, I believe, you'd have to check with them, but the Retirement and Investment Office is the group for the state that invests all of the state funds. And Fargo Dome is eligible for that. I believe some park districts and different things all have those available to them. But what you'd want to do in that is probably structure a transactional amount of cash and then reserve cash. And you just have to set that up to see what it would look like. But if you've got transactional needs, you have to keep that pretty readily available. It's the same thing if you think of it personally as your checking account versus what you might put in savings or a CD.
You bet.
So, it'd simply be contacting the Retirement Investment Office to see what they may have available. And since they deal with all state agencies, they'd be able to probably tell you what your limitations were.
Okay, I can do that.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Any other questions or comments?
Thanks, Jeff.
Thank you, Jeff. All right.
Thank you.
Happy holidays, Merry Christmas, everything there for you. Number 7, ND PERS update.
A few days ago, Chief Bush, along with Rick and Stacy, had met with the mayor to talk about PERS and the fire department and so forth. And I don't know, Stacy or Rick, Chief Bush, you want to give an update or just a brief summary of that discussion?
I will, just so you know, you're going in and out just a little bit, but I think I heard everything you said. The mayor had reached out, and Chief Bush, I believe, was on this call, to meet with him about the needs of the airport firefighters and the reasons for wanting to go with the public safety plan versus others. And Rick and I joined him, and so it was the mayor and Jill Manette. And we just started to talk through it. I thought it was a good conversation. I thought Chief Bush did a very nice job at communicating the needs of the airport firefighters. And the, I guess, consensus at the end of our discussion, and Chief Bush, Rick, please correct me or add in, is that we need to compare apples to apples. We need to take the plan that the airport firefighters are looking to and the plan that the city of Fargo is looking to and truly compare them in terms of multiplier for similarly situated income levels for these firefighters. And there's an agreement to do that. I hope my dog doesn't bark. And
Stacy?
I just need to circle back, I guess. Eric Johnson wasn't in on the call. Go ahead.
You keep cutting out too. We hear about, you cut out probably 25% of the time. So maybe Chief Bush, could you?
So what I plan to do is circle back with the mayor's office.
If you take your video off, your audio will probably improve.
Try that.
Stacy?
Better?
So you're gonna circle back with the mayor's
Can you hear me
office?
now?
Yes.
Yeah?
Yes, and we need to make a plan for how we agree upon who is gonna compare these plans and be able to give us the analysis. Because I think the mayor came away from this meeting, and Chief Bush, you can correct me, with, knowing it's in the best interest of the city of Fargo to make sure airport firefighters get the best plan for them and the plan that they want. And so it's still in the stages of figuring out how to figure it out. And I guess Rick or Chief Bush, if you have something to add.
Rick or,
This is Rick.
okay?
Yep. So, one of the things that was brought up, that I brought up during the meeting, is the fact that the Fargo firefighters have actually deviated from a common plan, by their plan not allowing for, or not doing deduction for Social Security. So the city of Fargo has already created a precedent by doing that and allowing it for the firefighters pension association that has been created. And in Stacy's statement of fairly creating apples for apples, I think it's important to understand that there are pieces of each that the city may think beneficial, but it comes down to what those airport firefighters need, want, and what we as a board need, want, and can afford for those employees.
Thank you.
Madam Chair,
Yes, Commissioner Strand?
thank you, and I'll just give you an update what I can add to this. It's my understanding, and the mayor and Jill and I, we had an internal discussion last week to update us on the meeting with Chief Bush and folks out there. They are meeting, I believe, late this morning, early afternoon. The city will be giving you another response to the North Dakota PERS issue topic, and also reaching out so you all know to schedule a small group meeting of our internal small groups that are meeting regularly to discuss that and the MAA's deadline action discussion. So that's about all I can say is that they'll be updating you all today on the North Dakota PERS and scheduling a meeting as soon as we can in early January that works for everybody.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions? Okay, thank you. 8, airport construction and security update.
Terry, do you want to give an update on our snow removal equipment building?
Sure. You bet. Everybody can hear me?
Yep.
Yes.
The existing building remodel, they're, kind of held off on the roof doing the other roof right now, but they're kind of doing miscellaneous metals to prepare for installation of metal panels the week of, basically the first week in January or January 4th, they're going to start putting the panels up. They're doing some miscellaneous small curb areas and pouring that. They finished setting the generator, and that's part of, that just ends up being over on the existing building. So they had a new generator, but that's all piped, and they switched over the feeders on that. The new building, again, they're preparing for garage doors, all the supports and channels for those. They're about 60% complete on the roof. They're installing the aluminum glazing and glass, which we have just a few windows in the break room area. Evidently, the overhead doors did not arrive yesterday, which they were supposed to. They're waiting for some information on where they're at. That seems to be kind of a common theme in construction today because of COVID. People end up getting, either exposed or COVID, and then all of a sudden it delays stuff because they're quarantining. Installing roof drains and rain leaders. Gas meters can be set December 22nd, and they're setting curves on the roof for the HVAC equipment, so that soon the rooftop units will be going on. So that looks like about it.
Great.
Great, thank you.
Jeff, do you want to give an update on some little projects we've been working on? The topo for the ramp and stuff? Jeff Klein?
Yeah, so can you hear me?
Yep,
Yes.
we can hear you.
Okay, perfect. One of the things that Mead and Hunt is going to propose to the airport authority is to start on a design project to reconstruct or do some major rehabilitation to the terminal apron. It's probably one of the worst pieces of pavement on the airfield, to be very honest with you. So I want to get started on the design. So what we had done was to take advantage of the unusual weather that we've had this fall, is we had started on the topographic survey prior to entering into any contract with the airport authority. Just wanted to seize the opportunity there. So that is complete now, and we can put that on the shelf until we get a contract figured out. And then I guess one of the questions on the other thing, on the environmental stuff that we're working on, when is the airport authority going to meet in January? Is it going to be the regular
Yes.
scheduled
Yes.
second?
January 12th, I
Tuesday on the
believe.
12th? Okay. So what Mead and Hunt will do is, for that meeting, prepare a contract proposal to prepare all the environmental documents for what we're calling the high priority areas on the airfield, which are development areas within the next, 5 to 6, 7 years. So that would include the terminal area, anything in the North GA, South GA,
Fargo Jet Centers, potentially putting up a hangar, those kind of things, because every project that's done on the airfield, regardless of its funding source, requires environmental action, and it can take some time. So the thought is that we would get a jump start on all of these environmental requirements now, so it doesn't delay the projects when they do come up. So.
Great, good idea. Any questions or comments from anyone, or?
Security-wise, things have been going fairly well. The TSA did install a bunch of plexiglass throughout the checkpoint area as a safety barrier. That's what I don't. Darren, do you have anything else, or Jordan, security-wise? Been busy in the badging office with people coming up and getting renewals and so forth. Just a few different things. So at the last meeting, General Haugen mentioned the Wall of Honor. That was actually installed the following week, and it's on the second floor just outside the restaurant. So there's a 55, 60-inch television set out there just in continuous loop mode showing veterans, current members of the military, law enforcement officers, etc. that is going through that process. So it looks really neat, and it worked out well.
That's great.
November traffic was down 53% as compared to November 2019. So it's a little worse than what we were in September and October, but hopefully we'll rebound. But as restrictions are put in place across the country, people are somewhat hesitant to travel that had planned during this time period, but yet we still seem to be fairly busy. Last week was called by Jeremy Turley from the forum about some rapid testing that was going to be done this week at the Bismarck Airport, and Darren had found an article. We did as well, and the National Guard is providing rapid testing for arriving passengers at the Bismarck Airport this week. I was called yesterday, Lieutenant Colonel Flanagan and Major Elijah, about doing the same here in Fargo, potentially today, but it was late yesterday afternoon when we got the call. So we will be working with the National Guard, I think the 141 unit, to set up rapid testing for arriving passengers in our baggage claim area. They haven't come to tour the area to find out what kind of space they need and so forth, but it appears that they are going to be moving forward with that and providing that to arriving passengers. Now, they won't turn anyone down, but it's free of charge. I believe you get the results in less than 15 minutes, and it's going to be done by the National Guard under the direction of the State Health Department. We'll have more on that, and I've sent out some information to Flint. I see Chris is on from Flint and Madison and so forth to get that publicized. Final thing is, earlier this month, the FAA sent out another clarification questionnaire, if you will, for the CARES grant that we received earlier this year. And it set off a wave of confusion and questions from the airports around the country, in that now they are stating that any invoice that we pay that's over $2,000 that includes labor, we have to have it verified, or maybe it's going to be thrown out, that it has to be paid the Davis-Bacon wage rates. So we've been working with some of our vendors, going back through invoices that have already been reimbursed to try and figure out if they're paying more than the Davis-Bacon wage rates for this area or not, and it's just become a mess.
Oh.
So leave it to the federal government to throw a wrench. The contract, it says for any contracts. Well, for instance, Grants Mechanical, which is now known as BDT, BDT, they changed their name, so I'll just say Grants Mechanical. If they come out and work on a heat pump and it might cost $4,000 to replace it, they might have 3 hours labor and the rest is in the equipment. We have to verify that their employees are being paid the Davis-Bacon wage rate. And there's other things. We've got a chiller project that's going on right now through BDT. We've had Brightway come out and clean windows and so forth. It's kind of turned into a mess. So we'll see where that goes, but hopefully we won't have to reimburse any money, but we're trying to stay on top of it as we go into acquiring things that will cost more than $2,000. And we've notified AAE. Of course, it's been on our weekly calls on Mondays and Thursdays. I've notified the delegation, along with the Bismarck Airport's done the same. It's just ridiculous what we're going through right now. So anyway, more to follow on that as we figure out their latest guidance, which has thrown a wrench into a lot of things.
Do other governmental entities have that same requirement?
It's a little different for transit, it's different for city funds, but the CARES funds assigned to airports seem to have different rules and requirements.
Okay.
So there's a lot of confusion between auditors and airports in terms of what is eligible, not eligible. There's no guidance from the ADOs, they just refer you to the airport operations folks in DC, and then you send it to an anonymous, like a general email, so you don't know what technician you're going to be working with to answer your question, and it just kind of goes from bad to worse. So we'll keep finding out. Payroll is no issue. They will reimburse that as part of the operational expenses and operation and maintenance expenses of the airport. But this $2,000 thing, the previous guidance was $5,000, so now it's down to $2,000. So we're not sure what happened. Anyway, that's all I've got.
Thank you. Let's final note, we did meet as a PEC last Friday, and we have scheduled 2 more meetings, next Monday and next Wednesday, the 28th and the 30th. And we're making progress. I guess that's all I can really say. It's very slow, and want to thank Rick and Eric for sticking on those meetings. And any other comments from you guys? Okay. All right. Any further business to come before?
Just condolences to Rick.
Oh, Rick, we send our condolences on your loss. It was mother, right?
Mhm.
Of your mother. I'm so sorry. Oh. Our prayers will be with you.
Thank you.
I just found out. Yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah. Other than that, I don't think there's any other business to come before. So, would somebody like to move to adjourn? Sometimes I just adjourn with adjourning. Meeting adjourned. Have a great holiday, you guys. Be safe.